Welcome to the last week of the 2015 European Challenger Series Spring Split Round Robin. My name is Richard Pulse-Cam, and with me is the wonder from Wales himself, James Stress O'Leary. First, let's go through yesterday's results. Team Dignitas managed to beat Reason Gaming, and if Dignitas win today, we can't have a tiebreaker.
Yeah, there was a lot of situations on the lead up to this that there were tiebreakers, but if that result happens, then there will indeed not be a tiebreaker. But one thing we were kind of planning for next week's show was a little bit of an April Fool's about Origin, but we have to bring it this week because in a massive upset yesterday, Origin lost to Lowland Lions, putting their first in the loss column. So Lowland Lions looking pretty strong. And then in our final game of yesterday, Gamers 2 and Mouse went head-to-head. Mouse would pick up their first win. Kind of unfortunate circumstances for Gamers 2. They were playing with a sub, but Mouse are now at 1-8.
Yeah, and we'll get to that a little later, but what does that mean for the playoffs?
So what it means for our playoff outlook for now is that Origin are locked in first place. Even with the loss yesterday, that doesn't matter. Then they'll be playing the 4th seed that comes out of the round robin. That game will happen next Wednesday. And the 2nd and 3rd seeds, which is still to be determined along with the 4th, they will play next Tuesday. And both of those semi-finals will be a best of 3.
And to see how the playoff bracket will be populated, let's take a look through the standings as they are now. So if we didn't play today's games, this is how we'd be going into it. We do have Origin sitting in first place, 8-1, but we'll be taking a look at that. So Lowland Lions will be 2nd, then Gamers 2 coming in 3rd, and then down at the bottom is Reason Gaming versus Dig. That will have the game later. This will determine their slots, and then Mouse will be running behind at 1 and 8.
Yeah, indeed. Now, you got a bit of a sneak peek just a couple of seconds ago, but let's take a look at today's matchups.
Yeah, so here are the final games in the round robin in today's show. Each of these results will shape the end standings for these teams. Super important. Team Dignitas EU will be going up against Reason Gaming for our first game. Origin will go up against Lowland Lions, maybe trying to grab a bit of pride back from the performance yesterday. And then Mouse will go up against Gamers 2 this time around.
Yes, indeed. 3 pretty important and very exciting games as well. And to stay up to date with all of the standings and schedules as we approach the playoffs in Challenger and in the LCS, check out lolesports.com. And while you're there, you can watch Tuesday's games in full and rewatch any games from the entire round robin here from the Spring Split in Challenger over on the VOD section.
Yep, and while you're there, you can also book your ticket to the Challenger playoffs in April, on April 8th, in fact, live from our studios in Berlin, just by clicking on the tickets tab and then following all the links over there. So now on to our first game, which is, again, incredibly important for both teams here, Stress, because this series will determine who gets eliminated and who will make playoffs. So speaking of Team Dignitas, let's take a look at their roster here. So for the last time in the round robin, it is Wonderware in the top lane, Broken Shard in the jungle, Sencooks in the mid lane, and Cobby and Voidal in the AD carry and support. And it really is do or die for Team Dignitas. If they do not 2-0, their playoff dreams are dead. So from a team we expected to take top 3, Dig have really not delivered. The early game has typically been a coin toss, and the battle plan was always get the solo lanes ahead and hope for the best. And that's the team that's been, well, that strategy has only really been successful against Mouse, and everyone's beaten Mouse so far.
Yeah, that's been a massive problem for them. And, you know, Team Dignitas just, in general, in a lot of their games, the European squad just haven't really ever got the ball rolling. It's been very much different parts and never coming together as a sum of the parts. And we expected them to do quite well, actually, when we came into the season. And of course, the organization would as well. Team Dignitas having picked them up from SK Prime. They haven't shown up yet, but it's not too late. As you said, coming into this week, they have to 2-0 Reason Gaming. They're halfway there. We'll see if they can do it against this Reason Gaming lineup.
Well, speaking of their lineup, let's take a look at Reasons. So, Kubon in the top lane, Zayu in the jungle, Take Fun in the mid lane, and Selva and Libic as AD carry and support. And, you know, for me, this was where I expected Reason to be finishing, but I also believe they have a lot of potential just if they put in the work. And the results have also been pretty much as expected. They took games from Gamers 2, Lowland Lions, and they also took wins from Mouse, which as expected, but they also lost against Origin. So arguably they could have taken the second game against Lions, but still, on paper, they should perform against Team Dignitas.
They should, and when we take things maybe outside of just the black and white results, they took Origin very late into the game as well. That was an impressive performance from Reason. However, they finished third in the expansion tournament, that one spot away from being in the LCS for the spring split. And now they're in a battle for 4th or 5th in Challenger here in the spring split. That's not where they would want to be. It's not where they'd want to tumble. They really need to deny Team Dignitas this win today.
Yeah, indeed. And that's not necessarily what happened yesterday, as we're going to take a look at that game here. So the first gang top lane from Broken Shard really just shows the strength of jungle Gragas, despite the counter gank from Zayu coming in here.
Yeah, indeed, and that was the first blood, but at the same time, Senkux, as always, we've talked about him so much, is going to pick up a 1v1 kill in lane. He hits level 6 first, Take Fun has no ult, and pop goes Lissandra. Top lane, right at the same time, Broken Shard gets a little bit outplayed by Zayu.
And in this river fight here, Senkux sets up his Living Shadows to net 2 simultaneous kills. Really cool to see. And then Kubon tries to salvage the situation with a teleport home guard, but a perfect Monsoon stops his advance. And Senkux escapes a free man because damage, unfortunately, from a horse and a Paro, not too much. Not
too much, but something that has happened a little bit too much, perhaps, is Voidal getting caught out. It's happened from team to team. At this point, this actually lets Reason Gaming kind of back into the game. They start to get a little bit of momentum and get a couple of towers, but Senkux at the very same time starts the Zed split push game, which ultimately he wouldn't really get to complete, but Reason throughout this game did pick up a good few towers.
Yeah, as you can see, they took a tower in return there, but 15 minutes of split pushing and objective trading later, Dignitas repel Reason Gaming from their exposed inhibitor, and then they take the fight. Senkux finds 2 kills here, while the rest of Dig just run Reason down. And only Wonderway here, you'll see him sacrifice himself, but he uses his life to basically keep Salava in place with his support, and they pick up those 2 kills as well.
At this point in the game as well, Baron wasn't quite available, so even though they took this fight, it was already still waiting to respawn. They took the inhibitor from that fight, but Reason would ultimately get the Baron when it came back up, but it cost them far too much here. Team Dignitas are already in place to contest the fight after a very slow Baron take out of Reason Gaming. This fight goes heavily in Team Dignitas' favor, and they close the game out from there.
Yeah, it was a really high kill game as well. 38 kills on the scoreboard there, but you can take a look at the players themselves. Cobby came in here 7-0 and 3 on that Tristana. That champion pick and ban was really well played. They held the AD carry until the end, so they had the late game security. They waited until the Hecarim was there. It was like, well, we're going to pick Tristana, so you can't do anything at all. It's going to bust the shot you away. So really nice pick coming in, and Cobby performed.
Yeah, and that's one of the big factors. Cobby performed in that game. We spoke about it last week and the previous week that Cobby just hadn't shown up yet. We hadn't seen enough out of him, and finally we see this game from the AD carry that 7-0-3 is a great stat line, especially on a Tristana who should have a worse laning phase. However, you look over at Take Fun, another player that's kind of performed, had a few deaths in this game, 6-5 and 6 overall, but one thing to note is the effect of the global gold that Reason Gaming picked up from towers in this game. You can see that he's actually only 700 gold behind Senkux, and that's from all of the action that Senkux had in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and talking about Mr. Senkux himself, 10-5 and 5, and again, what can we say? He just performed, and we say that week after week, so yeah, he's just really been
truly do.
Yeah, so a little bit about a broken record, but hey, what can you do? Every time he puts up the 10 kills every game.
The Zed started out well for him in yesterday's games, and just getting a kill one-on-one in lane, you can't really ask too much more from a mid laner, to be honest. That's it's pretty good result.
Yeah, so it was really well played by Team Dignitas overall. I mean, I said about this last week, but Broken Shard was saying that Cobby in the bot lane with Voidal was a more consistent bot lane than Crazy Caps and Zaitan. So now it's a question of, will they maintain this consistent, you know? We've seen this first great performance from them, so can they do that this game? And if they make playoffs, can they continue to perform well?
Yeah, that is a big question for the bot lane. But, you know, we're heading into today's match, and there's a lot on the line in today's match. And you kind of have to put yourself in a position of what exactly are going to be the key factors here for this matchup. And honestly, it's going to be the key factor that we've said in a lot of matchups here for the Team Dignitas roster.
Yeah, we just mentioned him, but this is the key factor. Possibly the player who's going to be Team Dignitas' salvation is Sencux. Week after week, he's put up the numbers, he's made the plays, and even in defeat, he's always performed. So if Team Dignitas are to secure a second win, it's going to be Sencux leading the charge. We said it before, we'll say it again, stress, Team Dignitas needs to capitalize on their solo lane advantages to close out the game, or rather use that as a tool to close out the game for them. And that is exactly what they did yesterday.
They did. And when you look at Sencux as a player just outside of yesterday, across the season as a whole, you just saw it there, the stat at just above a 3 KDA, which normally wouldn't be that impressive when you look at it. And it's still a very kind of underwhelming figure, but take into fact with that, most of those games are losses. There were a couple of games where he did have a lot of deaths, but in a fair few games on his Victor, games on Ari LeBlanc, champions like that.
Azir, when he was a thing.
Yeah, he's posted stat lines, 7, 8, 9 kills in games, and he's still doing well and is having a big impact on the team, despite the fact that he really is spearheading that charge. And the question is, and Victor's still not enabled ever since obviously the LCS where the Victor bug was found, but can he find that other champion? Zed seems to be the one. You have to figure that's going to get banned.
Yeah, you have to think so. I mean, yesterday we saw a lot of focus on the mid lane. I kind of want to touch on that as we head into champion select, but kind of on the point of how they're going to make this victory a reality. Talked about the bot lane, but also Wonderwear. He was great in the first couple of weeks. He had a lot of consistent performances, and then he just kind of fell off. Because we were actually talking about the 2 solo lane talents, get the solo lanes ahead, and then push that into a win. But then he just stopped performing. So hopefully he can just, come back into this.
Which is, it's slightly worrying, because when you go from 2 solo laners that can carry down to 1 solo laner that's doing it every game and one that's kind of 50, inconsistent with that. Yeah. Now that they've got Cobby and he carried a game, I'm maybe starting to believe, but they're against Reason, who, if there's anything that Reason have shown, top lane, solid. Mid lane is solid. Bot lane as well. I mean, where do you find the cracking point in Reason? And that has to be in the teamwork. And sadly, that's one thing that Team Dignitas just haven't brought to the table. They've made roster swaps. They've changed out players. Can they overcome that today? That
is the question, Stress, and we're going to answer some of those questions as we head into Champion Select. So let's see where the bans are going to go. We saw so much focus on the mid lanes yesterday. We saw Team Dignitas actually take away all of Takefun's basically champion pool, the ones that he likes, and they also picked the Zed. So took that away. And what do you know? They do it again. Take away the LeBlanc from Takefun.
LeBlanc is gone. I'm expecting an Irelia ban just away from Kuban. It's pretty much a standard from anybody that ever plays against Reason. It was banned yesterday. Zed now off the table for Sencux. So Zed is banned. Victor is not enabled. Where does that leave Sencux? Ari has been a champion he's defaulted to a fair amount here. That would probably be his next high priority champion. He doesn't strike me as the player that's going to play an Orianna or a Karthus, something that we're seeing on 5.5. Just a heads up, 5.5 is the patch we're playing on. Bard is enabled. We're not expecting to see it.
No. I've spoken to a lot of teams that are just like, nope, not really practicing. Looking at other supports perhaps, but not Bard right now. We might see it from a couple of the teams. But there's the Irelia ban up against Kuban, of course. Ari as well, again aiming at Sencux. We saw this yesterday, and it's no surprise that the mid laners are really taking the focal point of these bans, and Lulu comes away as well.
Yeah, Lulu is very fast becoming on 5.4 and 5.5 a top tier ban. It just completely removes the ability to do any kind of Juggernaut composition that a lot of teams have started to adapt to. No jungle bans yet, though. We're on 5.5. There's the first one.
Yeah. Okay, so that will be the final ban, and now we're just waiting for the first pick in from Wonderwear, which will be the Rek'Sai for Broken Shard.
Which is exactly what you would expect on 5.5, with the tank junglers coming back and Rek'Sai maintaining her status as Queen of the Jungle. This is exactly what you would expect when there's only been 1 or 2 jungle bans in the ban's phase. So that's nothing surprising. Reason would have accounted for that. What do they want to take as their top tier picks here? What is available for them? We've seen, a lot of junglers, now that Sejuani is out, a lot of junglers have preferred Gragas. I know Zayu is a player that has tried Gragas jungle before. and he is fast becoming that kind of second-tier jungler, along
below
with
Swajani
Sejuani.
and below the Rek'Sai. So there's a very good possibility we'll see that coming out from Zayu here. And again, it really is the question of where they put the prioritization. They may come in with some flex picks, of course, just keep it ambiguous, or they may even just lock in the Sion, which they do indeed. So the Sion pick comes in here, again, great in the 1v2s, great in just sitting up there, and they lock in an early Cassiopeia.
That is very ballsy, but at the same time is another of Senkuk's high priority champions. Senkuk's banned his own LeBlanc because they don't want Take Fun to have it. Zed and Ahri both banned as well. That's a lot off the table here for Senkuk's. The Sion, a bit of a flex pick. Some people are trying it in the jungle. That could be a possibility, although it's not as top tier, but Team Dignitas bringing something a little bit different.
Yeah, so Janna picked up as well. I mean, we see Janna all the time, but here comes a Fizz, and yes, we've seen it in the LCS, saw it in North America, in fact, but it was played mid lane by Keen, where he went with this kind of tanky build. Then we saw Smitty J play it in the top lane as a kind of a split push assassin. So there's lots of places this can go. I'm very interested about it.
I'm expecting it to go into the top lane. We've seen that a lot in Europe here, especially players like Vizicachi, or if you'll excuse the pun, Vizicachi, when he plays it. I had to get
excuse the pun, you just made the pun.
I'm making the pun. It's all good. It's all good. We're going a little North American here on the puns, but yet we're still waiting. I'm expecting that to be top, as I said. I think the Morgana pickup here is... It's still good because you're able to kind of mitigate a lot of the crowd control, but a lot of Morganas that we see are flexed. Now this Morgana with a Sion in the game already, and if this Gragas gets locked in, really can only go down to support. There's too many other champions unless we're going to see something absolutely crazy here from Reason.
Yeah, especially with the Gragas coming in. I mean, that's going to be jungle. You're not going to put the Sion in jungle in this scenario, so we're only waiting on the AD carry from Reason Gaming.
And what this does give the AD carry is a lot of protection. Black Shield and Explosive Cask should keep whoever they pick for Celiva alive. So
are we looking for some backline diving here from Team Dignitas? They have the Fizz.
They have to try. They have to try and get something here, or something that scales equally as well as what Reason are having. The two AD carries that we're kind of seeing come back up alongside the Kog'Maw. Europe last week we saw a lot of Jinx from that AD carry position. And funnily enough, Cobby is actually showing us a second one that after Jinx has came up. Tristana, after the rework, people are starting to find out how she plays. I wonder whether we'll see it out of Team Dignitas. I'm expecting a scaling AD carry out of Reason.
Also got buffed in the last patch as well. Every time she auto-attacks a target who's been tagged by the explosive charge, she'll reduce her rapid fire by 1 second on that cooldown. Ooh, do have the lock-in of Syndra, so I guess that tells us exactly where that Fizz is going. The Fizz will most likely be going top with the Syndra mid lane into the Cassiopeia matchup, so we'll get to that in a second. There you go.
There we go.
There's the Jinx. So yeah, everything makes sense so far.
One thing that I want to kind of note here is how far down the tier list that Senkuk's has gone. Senkuk's can play Syndra, but he's not a Syndra player. He's not a Power of Evil. He's not somebody that is known for that single champion. And that means it's kind of tumbled down his list. So many mid lane champions of his were not available.
Victor gone, Ahri gone.
The Victor ban is a massive boost to Reason Gaming here, and that's something you can't overlook. Syndra is still strong. We've seen it from Power of Evil in the LCS. Is it strong when you're not Power of Evil? Is the question.
I'm not doubting the Syndra, I'm doubting Senkuk's on the champion. Because, however, every week, yes, he's performed. Yes, even when we had Azir, he was great on Azir as well. I just haven't had the case studies to be like, he's been good in this game. He was good in this game. So, yeah, as you mentioned, how down the tier list has he gone?
Still a strong pick. Has the laning presence at level 6. If he can reach it before Cassiopeia, no reason why you can't blow Cassiopeia up, get ahead. Cass is going to want to scale along with the Jinx. There's a big period of the game where it's still fine for the Syndra. It's merely that I don't see Senkuk's play Syndra very often that it's interesting to me.
It's a little scary thing. But it's crunch time for the teams. But before we get into game, go to lolesports.com and cast your vote for the team you think will take home the win. And we'll check in with your thoughts throughout the match.
We will indeed. But my thoughts right now. We've got a double tank composition coming out of Reason Gaming with the Sion and the Gragas. On the other side, we've got a lot more of kind of a skirmish and get ahead with a lot of... the top side of the map here for Team Dignitas has a lot of power. Fizz, Rek'Sai, Syndra, you get a kill in one of those lanes and you can just continue to snowball that. There's a lot of pick potential. The only kind of time bomb is going to be Tristana. Need to buy time just for her to scale up a little bit. And they've got Janna for disengage as well.
But on the other side, you kind of have the same thing. You've got the Jinx who's going to be great late game. So is Cassiopeia. Her damage is going to get insane. But we're going to get into the game here. And we'll see how those picks work out. So yeah, back onto that point. Both of the teams have some late game punch to them. So kind of interested to see where these teams are going to be spiking, where they're going to be looking for the fights, and what power spikes they're going to be making use of.
Yes, that's a lot of questions, hopefully which we'll answer here today. But this is a crucial matchup for Team Dignitas. They have to win here to get to the playoff bracket. If they win, they steal away Reason's spot. Yeah,
Reason Gaming have to win, so do Team Dignitas. This is so crucial for them because whoever wins, the other is going to be knocked out and have to re-qualify in the next season in summer.
So something kind of interesting here is something we're starting to see in European Challenger and just across other leagues as well. Sion is going to do the level 1 start where he dies. Interestingly enough, what he'll do is he'll just start with just a flask, and then when he backs, he'll either pick up potions and a ward with the extra money that he gets, or boots. It's a kind of a 50-50 on, depends on whether you get the lane swap that you want, whether you've got the sustain. So he's holding off. He's got about 130 gold, I believe it is, 130.
By taking the camp, he should be up to around 320-ish, which is around boots if he wants it. We've mainly seen it on Hecarim. We might see it on Sion here. It depends what he's looking for, as you mentioned. But yeah, Hecarim really likes the boots because it gives him even more AD.
One thing people are looking for right now in this game is the lane swap, which I think is actually really smart on Reason's side. Fizz struggles in a lane swap, Sion does not. Sion is pretty much the best 1v2 top laner right now, so it's no surprise that they're going to try and put the pressure onto Wonderwear and try and make him crack early on.
Yeah, all he needs to do is yell at some minions, and he kind of just clears out the wave. So, Broken Shard here, starting on the Grump. I've learned that now there's a fungus. Thank you, Deficio. Oh, Wonderwear will be walking into the bush. Libic apparently doesn't even really notice for a couple seconds, and we'll just let him wander in there. Kubon will be starting up on this red buff.
Yeah, so
interesting. Is he going to take it? Can he take it with his passive?
He's just going to take the small ones because, remember, a lot of experience was moved over to the small ones. I wonder here, is he going to use...
He's going to try.
Yeah, wow. He has a lot of damage here.
There's red buff.
Okay, so...
And as he executes to the camp, it means that he keeps the red buff when he respawns.
Yeah, exactly. So once he's not actually going to buy anything and he's going to... Oh, it's a cloth armor. Okay.
And they're going for dragon.
That's interesting. I've not seen people do this with the cloth armor so much.
But they're trying to go for dragon with it.
Yes, exactly. Which, this is now a really interesting start out of Reason Gaming. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that...
This is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a really smart start here out of Reason. It's not going to work every single time you do this. This is a kind of strategy that you save for when you really have to get a win.
You know? It's when we were talking about the Vi level 3 taking the dragon, it's going to happen once, but then after that, never again. And yeah, Kubon and Zayu take it right under the noses of Team Dignitas EU. That means they have the timer as well. Broken Shard's not going to know anything about it unless he goes down the river. So not only do they have that, but they have the timer, and they can set up for the next one. Zayu's also in the bot lane to assist Kubon. Now Broken Shard moves into the middle lane. Here's the tunnel. Will he go for the flash? Yes, he does. Knock up into the first blood. Will send Cux's Syndra work out. So far, yes it is.
Lands the stun, gets exactly what they needed, and that's the thing with these lanes here from Team Dignitas. If they get them ahead, they have to force Reason to go late game, which is why the dragon stat is so good right now. They've picked up a dragon very early on in this game, and what that's going to allow them to do is bring the timer that they would get that 5th dragon closer to the beginning of the game here. They're on track for a much faster 5th dragon than they ever would, and with this double tank, high scaling composition, that puts a timer now on Team Dignitas. They need to get these lanes very ahead. They've started out in the right way with that mid lane gank from Broken Shard. It was a very clean gank as well, which is something that we've seen them have trouble with before.
Yeah, it was just perfectly executed. So both teams kind of just pulling out everything in this game to stay alive. You know, I was talking actually to Reason's manager, Simon, and he was saying how Reason Gaming have really just been trying their best to practice and bootcamp for playoffs. However, if they do not make playoffs, then you might as well use your strategies now to try and get into playoffs. So yeah, we'll see if that is the case. And of course, that level 1 strategy there definitely shows they're trying to use everything they can to keep themselves in this.
Yes, indeed. Now we've got Wonderwear being helped by Broken Shard here. They're going to try and you know, shove this, break any kind of freeze that Reason were looking to set up. That's a big wave being pushed in, but Wonderwear actually hasn't really been punished in this lane swap right now. I'd be interested to see how Reason actually set that one up, because that's a lot of CS onto a Fizz, more so than the Scion has been able to get. And as we said coming into this game, normally 1v2 Scion is pretty much king.
He is, and he's trying to get all that farm under turret, currently around equal with the top lane, who is now trading off against Libic and Celiver. Celiver will just return some damage and Broken Shard. Those are some flame chompers, don't walk into those. We'll just carry on clearing out these minions. So let's take a look at some of the differences between these lanes currently, and hold that thought because Libic is now moving on to Broken Shard. Ooh, managed to get the rockets down as well. Picks up a kill in that 2 versus 2. Wonderwell will use Libic as a jumping post for Urchin Strike, but he'll have to flash away behind his turret because Celiver was about to pick up a second kill in that one. Completely outplaying them 2v2.
Yeah, this top lane is going pretty well here for Reason Gaming when you look at it now that that fight has happened. They managed to get a good kill off the first one and Wonderwear's flash. That means Fizz is not really going to be able to push forward because he'll have to burn mana through his E to try and get away. He's going to teleport straight back because they know there's not really any chance of them diving him. Zayu's actually pretty low himself down in the bottom lane as well. So this game is starting out a little bit more hectic than we've seen, but if anything we know from 5.5 is that it has changed so much in the game right now.
Yeah, it has, and you can already see that by the picks, but in this game, lots happening, lots of strategic diversity. And Take Fun here in the mid lane. Broken Shard going for round 2. Libic's there this time, but he gets blown up by Senkux' Unleashed Power. He goes down without a fight, and Libic will just be the support sitting in the mid lane, trying to get all the farm he can.
And there we go. We kind of doubted the Syndra coming into this, but they've done exactly what they needed to with that pick. Now. Yes, now I am a believer, because they hit 6 on Senkux before they got it onto Take Fun. Take Fun's still only level 5. And they use the ultimate. That is exactly what you need to do on a Syndra lane once you hit 6, is coordinate that with your jungler, make sure you get the kill in lane. Now down to the bottom lane, this lane swap has not worked out so well for Reason when it comes to the bottom side of the map. The turret has gone down, yes they got the dragon, which is going to be back up in 2 minutes, but now they've lost a tower, and that gives a lot less dragon control now for Reason. They needed to stop that tower going down so quickly.
Yeah, and that means they are slightly behind in this game. Of course, the Dragon will kind of do more as we progress through the game because of the percentage stats it gives as the first Dragon buff. But the first tower going down to Team Dignitas EU. Now swapping their duo lane into the top lane means Wonderwear will be going up against Kubon, and he's already ahead in terms of the farm race, 36 to 23 currently. And in the mid lane, we haven't touched on it too much yet as Take Fun kind of keeps dying, but 54 to 45 farm currently, so he's ahead in farm, he's ahead in kills. And in both of those ganks, in fact, Take Fun still had his flash and ignite. They just CC'd him, and he was dead before he even hit the ground after being knocked up with the Unburrow from Broken Shard.
That's one of the problems with Cassiopeia, is she's pretty squishy in her laning phase, so you get on top of her, and it's a pretty easy kill from there. But there's a gold lead pretty much on every lane here for Team Dignitas, and that is exactly what they need. Yep. But they still need to get further ahead against Reason Gaming. They have a good lead so far, but this double tank composition is going to scale quite well. The Tristana is going to be their saving grace in that situation. Fizz will also do a fair amount of damage. But it is all on how ahead they can get, and they are on a good track.
Yeah, potential engage there, spotted out by both teams, in fact, because of great warding coverage in that bush. And Voidal just places down the ward, just taunting Kuban as they know they have that warded as well. So he's used his Raptors to clear that on away. It wasn't even Raptors, it was his Trinket. So he won't have that again, but he does manage to get this pink ward in the mid lane for Take Fun.
Yeah, and Reason's vision control is all focused around stopping Broken Shard from getting into that middle lane. You can see that they've got, I believe it's 2 pink wards and a good few wards deep into the topside jungle as well, with some in river. So they're very concerned with Broken Shard continuing to snowball Senkux. And what these wards are also going to give them is the dragon control here. Team Dignitas are well aware that that early dragon was taken, so they didn't have an exact timer, but Broken Shard being around here, they know it's already being done. And Reason, even though they got the first dragon of the game, and now too afraid to sit here. Senkux is already level 8 here around this engage. And one big stun here onto the rest of Reason Gaming could absolutely annihilate their lineup.
Yep, he has both his summoners and his ultimate. Yeah, Take Fun has his own ultimate, but it's kind of harder to line up when you're not the ones engaging on the people starting the dragon. So they're going to disengage and just go for the housekeeping stuff, go for the blue buff, just go back to farming their lanes. And still, Sencooks is opening up an even bigger CS lead in the mid lane.
Yeah, and it's not only the mid lane that there's a big CS lead opened up in either. Now that they've got the 1v1 matchup in what would be the top lane, Wonderwear 62 CS to the 34 of Kuban, and we talked about Wonderwear as a player a little bit earlier. He has been hit and miss. Certainly this game he is on track to start demolishing Kuban a bit more here, and that would be a good thing for a young player like that to kind of rejuvenate him heading towards potential playoffs.
Oh, maybe this is the third kill. Take Fun this time will get his flash down to save his life, but he still has to burn a summoner for that privilege. Broken Shot, every time he's come mid lane, he's gotten something.
And this is really good timing out of Team Dignitas. They get the mid lane flash. They know Take Fun is low on mana and is going to be too scared to really do anything around this fight now without his flash. So they're going for the dragon. However, Reason have started to react. The dragon's down.
Here comes Sion right into the side of Broken Shot. Wonderwell actually jump into that Urchin Strike and use the ultimate as well. Zayu goes down. Kuban will be soon to follow. This is becoming very bloody very quickly. Kuban now in passive form will just keep banning away at Sencooks. Eventually he goes down, get punched to death. And Take Fun comes out away as well. No kills, but an assist to his name, a 2 for 2 overall.
Yeah, 2 for 2 overall, and it's Sencooks that picked up pretty much both of those kills there for Team Dignitas. It just kind of, wow, okay, top. Just, God, Jinx. Jinx just died with flash and heal up.
Yep.
With both.
He did do that.
Okay. Right, Tower's going to die now as well.
Okay,
let's go back
to
this fight, because I'm still confused by top lane. We'll get to that in a sec. So it's a pretty solid dragon take here out of Team Dignitas off the nice mid lane gank. They know that Cassiopeia can't be here yet, so they managed to take this fight quite handily. This is where the problem happens. Even though Take Fun misses his ultimate here, they've still got enough damage from Kuban in his passive form, and it turns from Team Dignitas having the advantage to Kuban saying, "You're locked in here with me in my passive form," and gets himself a double kill there. All from that no flash. Let's take a look at this again. What's the celebrate? Is it the tower explosion?
No, it's
Tell me
explosion.
it's a 4 explosion on the tower. Oh dear.
Hashtag wrecked.
Oh, that's... I just looked at the screen and she was gone. It's... Wow. I don't think...
That's a new one.
I think clearly Celiva was not expecting that
No,
either.
I mean, like, honestly, how much Tristana have you seen before 5-5? Like, not a whole lot. And if you're not expecting the AoE damage, because it gets even bigger when it's on turrets.
Yeah, so
he just wasn't expecting it.
For anybody that hasn't seen much Tristana since the rework, essentially her E got changed to kind of like a bomb that you put on somebody, and then the more you auto-attack it, the more damage it does when it detonates, and it stacks up to 4 times. So that's what happened there. You can use it on turrets to deal extra damage in an AoE radius. And Celiva clearly was not expecting it. So, man, that's Cobby showing his strength on Tristana. He had a great game on Trist yesterday. He's on track for a good one today.
Yeah, and this one is kind of set up the same way. Like, he picked it into a Hecarim and a Swajrani, both of which are just going to kind of run at him. And this game, we have a Sun who's going to run at him, and a Gragas who's also going to just body slam into him, so he can just get away from that.
One problem right now that Reason have is they're shoving mid lane, which they should be able to deal a lot of damage to. One problem they're going to have is that Cassiopeia is not going to have as much damage as you would expect, even with her scaling later into the game, because she's had to opt for that second Doran's and a Giant Spell towards the Rallies. But that's a very early Giant Spell and is a lot of money that should normally be going towards AP to give you more damage in these fights. All that's giving her is the health to survive, which in theory gives you more AP over a longer amount of time. But when you take a look back at last week's LCS game with Power of Evil playing Cassiopeia, so much more damage when you compare them. So it's all on Take Fun to land the Qs, get the Twin Fangs.
That's scary.
Voidal. Oh, Dark Binding hits.
It hits as well, right on the corner. Zayu comes in with the ultimate as well, gets the explosive cast into his ally, and Monsoon will keep him alive temporarily, and the seal as well. Wonderwear comes in from the top. 2 teleports come in, Broken Shot from the bot-hand side, and there'll also be Sencooks joining the fray. That's 2 kills in favor of Dignitas EU, and somehow Jan is still alive. Kuban wants this one, even if it costs him his life. Glory and death. Can Can he get it? No, he's going to go down before he can even reach Voidor. That was disastrous from Reason Gaming. 3-0. Broken shot on the way to... Oh, his Raptors.
No, he could potentially look to save the turret here. It's enough to shove Take Fun off. It felt underwhelming a little bit, but just the presence from the Rek'Sai ultimate alone, there's a lot that just happened here, and it's all in Team Dignitas' favor. They're now pushing top lane as well at the same time, and with Dragon coming up in 2 minutes, they have a lot of control on this game. The top lane turret does die 8 kills to 3. And right now, that fight, beautiful dodge from Wonderwear, by the way. As the Sion ultimate was coming in, he playful tricksters his way out, and they managed to clean up the fight. Voidal stays alive, which is something we don't normally say too often. And Team Dignitas are in a fantastic position to knock Reason Gaming potentially completely out of the playoff bracket.
Incredible. I mean, honestly, just judging how they've performed so far during the round robin, we were always like, I just expected more. But Reason Gaming, if they fall out here, it could be insane from Team Dignitas EU here. And right now, Reason Gaming just trying to regroup, honestly, after that bad series of events. Around 6k behind right now, and Kubon is now pushing the bottom lane. Kobe's going to be here to stop him. And we were talking before about how the AD carries are working out, and right now I'm looking at Celiver, who's picked up the Berserker's Greaves and hasn't even finished a big item yet, compared to Kobe, who's already got his Infinity Edge.
And that is a massive deal with scaling AD carries. Normally their item spike comes at 2 items. When you have Infinity Edge and an attack speed item, Broken Shard should just disengage here. They don't want this fight. Let the turret go down. However, the fact that Celiver has had to pick up boots so often means he can't do what Kobe's doing.
Uses the ultimate as well, but he's already running in that direction, and he'll screen carrots as he gets back to his turret. Wonderwear into the mid lane, doesn't land the fish, but Zayu from the backside, so is Libic, trying to get this CC down. Doesn't quite manage to do so, and the Hurricane will come through. Doesn't really get anything apart from the trees.
Man, I really cannot emphasize just how important this AD carry disparity is between the two when it comes to damage. Once this attack speed item is completed onto Tristana, the amount of damage difference between Jinx and Tristana is going to be huge, and Team Dignitas will be able to clean up fights very well, because not only have they hit their AD carry item spike in the next minute or so, Fizz has his Trinity Force, there's a needlessly large rod on top of the Morellonomicon on Syndra. They have so much damage against this late scaling composition out of Reason that right now is probably not going to get into this game without this going very, very long.
Yeah, and that being said, though, Reason Gaming, if they do reach the late game, are in an okay position. As you mentioned, it's just kind of trying to get there at the moment for them, as Team Dignitas did secure their second dragon of the game. So all of the dragons so far, apart from that very first one that Reason Gaming managed to sneak away, has gone to Team Dignitas EU, plus those 3 objectives in terms of the turret. They're just commanding this map.
Reason do still have the tools to get there, though. That's a very key thing to look at. They have disengage from Gragas. They also have kind of engage/disengage from Take Fun, depending on how his ult is used. And Sion is always going to become a presence in the late game. So Team Dignitas can't underestimate what Reason can still do with their composition, but they are ahead, and Zayu is alone.
He's caught out. Wonderwear from the backside. Libic as well. Dodges the dog binding. Senkos will flash forward. Tries to get the unleashed power. Will get it down onto the Morgana. Zayu has also fallen. That's a 2-for-0 plus the middle turret, and Team Dignitas constantly taking these advantages.
And they got the dragon as well. Remember, this is a composition from Reason Gaming that they started the game taking the first dragon with a very nice, unorthodox composition. However, they lost too much on the rest of the map from that. And now they've lost the next 2 dragons, which means Reason's time to fight is just getting pushed further and further back in this game. This is a much different Team Dignitas than we've seen the entire round robin.
Yeah, honestly, this coming into this game, I was like, if there's going to be a, not stomp, but a game that's going to go far into one team's favor, I was expecting it to come from Reason Gaming after yesterday's performance. Dig managed to just get it. They did well, but it was still close as a game. This one is just going their way completely. Where did this Dignitas come from?
There's a couple of things that feel like they've changed in this game. Broken Shard is being decisive. His ults are on point to get across the map, and he's just been in front of turrets. He's been in lanes getting kills that he needs to get, and it's something we haven't seen out of him in quite a while. Senkux is business as usual. Kobe and Voidal seem to have found their stride as well, and Wonderwear is having a good game on top of that. That's not to detract from the Reason Reason Gaming camp, that's just the feeling of this game is very different to the previous round-robin games.
I would argue it hasn't been Broken Shard not being decisive, because he's been decisive in the wrong decisions. So I think in this one, his decision-making has just been better, and capitalizing on that has been great. Wonderwear has been caught out in the jungle. They knew he was there as they had the ward. He will be trying to get away with his E, but being closed in by Zion Takefun, he's just taken out by sitting in a bush with a ward on it.
Just as we were singing the praises.
I know.
It's still fun.
And
like,
not.
That's his first death. It's there's still a lot to play for.
He's still done great.
That's going to allow Reason back into this. Libic is setting up a bit of a trap here. If you can dark bind Cobby here, teleport's coming through. Broken Shard checks into Libic. Great binding.
Right onto the behind of Cobby. This will be an engage coming out from Sion. There's the Soul Shackles onto 3 members. Zio as well uses ultimate to CC them up. Zap comes through and tags Cobby on the way out. Broken Shard as well will be taking some damage. Meanwhile in the mid lane, Sencooks blasts down Takefun with the teleport from behind. He will be trying to get in from behind. So will Wonderwear. He gets exhausted immediately. He'll jump down with a playful Trickster. It's not enough damage just yet, and he'll get chunked away by Kuban and Zayu. This literally happened 10 seconds ago, and now the rest of the team will have to disengage. Sencook's the one-man army. He's going 1 versus 4, but he gets bound, and they will be able to take him out. Not before he destroys the Radiant Carrier of Celiva, though, with that nice E at the end.
A pretty good fight overall for Reason Gaming. They came out ahead on the kill count, and they stop a little bit of the pressure that Team Dignitas were applying here. But man, that's not the vote I was expecting.
It's
when
not,
you look at it.
But coming into this game, that's what I thought too. I said it before, and I'll say it right now. Like, that's what I was expecting. But this game has not only turned my opinion around, but I'm sure a lot of viewers at home.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a weird one because this game is back and forth. As far ahead as Team Dignitas have been, they've let a couple of little things go to Reason Gaming. That fight being the biggest so far. And honestly, like, let's take a look at things, because Reason Gaming are on their way to their composition becoming as strong as it should be here.
Yeah, I kind of just want to take a second to recap what's happened, because so much has happened over the last couple of minutes. Let's take a look at the items first, as Dragon is spawning in 1:30, but we do have Wonderwear now with his Trinity Force. He's had that for a while now. Mid lane, Sencooks has again been getting further ahead. What's that? 7-2-2. We've seen that scoreline before. So he's got the Death Cap, he's got the Relinomicon, and another needlessly large rod. And as Takefun had that kind of dodgy laning phase, he's gone for the Rylai's Crystal Scepter before going elsewhere in his item build.
Yeah, indeed. And looking back again to the AD carries, that was an important fight for Celiva. He picked up a double kill, finishes his Infinity Edge. He already has the level 2 boots, and now most of the way towards his attack speed item on top of that. So Celiva's caught up a little bit. From that fight, that has now brought Celiva almost in line to Cobby here. But it is all pretty much on the next fight with regards to those two. The difference in that fight was Cobby put himself in a completely bad position as they were in that lane. They pushed up, didn't check the bush, easy dark binding. The problem that Team Dignitas are going to have is they need to get to Celiva in fights through the Gragas ultimate, through the Scion, through the Cassiopeia and the Morgana as well, and then get the kill on top of it. They have to burn a lot to get there, whereas if Cobby steps out like that again, it's a lot easier for Reason Gaming to take control.
Yeah, but it's all about getting those mistakes from Cobby.
Yes.
And it's him messing up, so we'll see if Reason Gaming can capitalize on some of those, whether they happen later on.
Whoa,
this could be a Baron for Dragon trade. Reason Gaming are really just pulling the trigger on this one, and that has not been warded up at all from Team Dignitas EU. They were actually fighting over crowd control, and Zai was the one to push him away. This is all set up by Zai.
Sencooks is checking for it, though. He's at least heading over to that area. Broken Shard knows. They have a feeling that this is actually going on, and this Baron is dying very slowly because they don't have Jinx there. This is a horrendous mistake.
Again, this is the first kill going down. That's the second one coming out. Zayu does not have enough damage. Now Kuban in his passive form. Cobby comes into the fight. He finds Levick. He goes down. That's a 2-for-0, 3-for-0. Make that 4-for-0.
Oh my goodness.
All turns around. They take the Dragon. They take the kills. And they take the Baron. Team Dignitas running all over Reason Gaming. Completely planned out.
Oh, that was just such a good read out of Team Dignitas there to get themselves over. And the problem was Reason. That would have been a great strat had Celiva been with them. The Cassiopeia and the Scion were doing a good enough job already, but honestly, Reason Gaming didn't even need to go for that play. It was a good attempt, but it's the attempt that has now put them on pretty much lifeline here for their European Challenger spot. somehow need to now overcome the Baron and the deficit between these two teams, which is massive. And Team Dignitas are now in absolute control.
12,000 gold over their opponents are Team Dignitas EU currently. 5 towers ahead, and they've taken an inhibitor, and they have Baron, and they have a third dragon. They are winning in practically every single category, and they're just ahead right now. Senkux is doing his thing. He's killing everyone. He's 9-2-3. Even on this champion where we thought it was down in his tier list, apparently not. He can still perform on this versus Take Fun on this Cassiopeia, which was picked, I might add, very early into the draft. And we might see these two laners go head-to-head. There's the flash over the wall.
Can he
saw that in laning phase?
Doesn't want to try for
it. But yeah, the Cassiopeia was picked early on. They were confident in the pick, and now he's 1-4.
Yeah, the Cassiopeia is the biggest thing here. Reason, I guess, were laughing to themselves, like, yeah, we got his Cassiopeia, yeah. Now Victor's not there.
Got him now.
Ari, LeBlanc, everything's gone. No Zed for you. And he just goes, okay, well, I'll just pick a matchup that I actually like. It doesn't have to be an OP one for me as a player, but I'll just smash you, which, you know, we sing Senkux's praises so much. But it's things like this that make us, that just remind us of why we do it. As Cyanol...
War! War.
Oh, dear.
He was screaming war, but all he found was a war. And ultimately, Team Dignitas will just walk away from it. It was a Jinx Rocket also coming through, which didn't hit any targets. And most likely, Reason Game will just try and reset here and just wait for their cooldowns again as Kubon teleports up to the top lane. So teleport advances now over to the Team Dignitas EU. Wonder where going underneath the turret. This is a Smitty J tactic. Yeah. Oh, and he actually gets it this time. Kubon will be falling down there. He's in his passive form, but that also opens up the opportunity for Team Dignitas to go for the bottom turret. They're just pushing in everywhere in this base. Now the top lane as well is being pushed in. Zayu is trying to wave clear it, but they'll probably be losing a second inhibitor here as they try to defend the bottom turret.
Yeah, they will indeed. And you know, that fight for Kubon looked okay. He was like, why is Fizz going on me? Why is he ulted? Because Syndra's there too. And that's an easy fight for them to take. And Team Dignitas are in a fantastic position. We said it was do or die. They needed the 2-0. And if Zayu falls here...
Which he does. He goes down. Bottom will be fighting as well. Take Fun with a return ultimate. Lands onto Free. That will be Kobe on the front lines who gets caught out. Libic does land the binding when it matters. But the top side, that's Wonderwear coming in to assassinate the support. Take Fun versus the world. Can he do it? Senkux is there and he says, no, sit down. I am the king of the challenger mid laners right now. And now they will go for those Nexus turrets. Unbelievable stress. Team Dignitas EU take this series 2-0 and knock Reason Gaming out of the challenger series. And they will have to re-qualify in summer. Team Dignitas, they secure their playoff spot.
That is a fantastic performance out of Team Dignitas. That is the one that we were expecting before the season when they were SK Prime. When we were talking about what teams could make it, who will get out, who's going to be in the top half, we said that they have the ability to do it, and there are players on that roster that can bring them there. And Senkux has showed again and again with the rest of the team now, I'm a lot more confident in the rest of the team after that performance, that they may be a contender here. If they play like that, I mean, we've even seen that Origin unbeatable. It's a mountain of a task, but Team Dignitas now... I believe they can only take 4th. So they are fated with Origin. We will double check that and make sure.
But still, making playoffs from a team who was 2-6 coming into the week, who we were just like, they're pretty much done here unless they 2-0. And they performed. They really took it home, and that was really impressive. Like, that was the same as yesterday, but on steroids, because they just brought it home to Reason Gaming. And Reason, the team we were kind of speculating how they were going to do in playoffs, is just gone. They're in 5th place now. They can't escape that. And they'll have to re-qualify in summer. They'll have to battle all the challenge teams all over again. And that's a big hit to Reason Gaming, you know? Like you mentioned before about the expansion tournament, so close to actually just making it into the LCS right out. They took a 3rd place. This time around, they're just slipping. And they're falling behind all of these challenger teams.
This week, if this week's just proof that Challenger is crazy.
Yeah, if you had told me the results coming into the week, I would have called you crazy. But after watching yesterday's games and then watching this game as well, anything can happen.
Crazy. And that's only game 1 of our day as well. But I mean, congratulations to Team Dignitas for securing their spot. That is a big, big point that we have to make.
Indeed. So let's take a look at the standings now from that win and what that means. So now... it's currently Team Dignitas EU taking the spot away from Reason Gaming, who are now dropped into 5th. And Dignitas, we'll see here, because they will not be playing in the playoffs at all.
Yeah, Team Dignitas on the head-to-head. You just saw the 2-0 over Reason Gaming. Secures them a spot, and with that spot secured, they are fated to play against Origin, which, as you can see, there we go. We're locked in. Semi-final 1, which takes, or semi-final 2, takes place next Wednesday. The Origin Team Dignitas matchup, and that is going to be a good matchup. If that last game is anything to go by, Senkux in the mid lane against Peke, Broken Shot against Amazing. There's some interesting matchups there in that head-to-head.
Yeah, I think I said something stupid. I think I said Dignitas are out. They're not out. They're in fourth
They're
currently. Yeah. But yeah, in the scoreboard there, you just saw that they were tied. But because they won the head-to-head, because they went 2-0, it just means they've beaten them. So
yes,
if there was any confusion over that, because apparently my brain was confused.
It's okay. I mean, I'll be honest. While this might sound slightly bad-mannered, I think if you look at the first half of the season, Team Dignitas, and the end of the... My brain would be a little bit confused. If you told me that on week 2, I'd have been like, not so sure about that. However, they have improved. That was the improvement that we needed to see from them, and I'm happy to see it's been made.
Yeah, they delivered. So, while these two teams' fates are out of their hands, the rest of the teams still have to fight to solidify their positions heading into playoffs. Stick around. We'll be back right after this.